In this interview, I talked to yoga expert Tara Stiles. She's the founder of the New York-based yoga studio called Strala. Now, Tara's also a professional model, she's the author, and she's a personal yoga instructor for Deepak Chopra. She's also one of Jane Fonda's fitness experts called the New Faces of Fitness. I was really excited to talk to Tara because she's such a down-to-earth teacher and she's totally demystified yoga and made it accessible to everyone. And we all secretly want to know how models really keep fit. So carry on watching this video and I'll see you guys in the comments. So there's lots of different types of yoga. Can you describe the type of yoga that you practice at Strala?
At Strala we teach, a physical practice that's challenging physically, and it also focuses on the strength, balance, focus, and awareness, like a lot of the things about yoga, but I wanted to make it almost like Americanized or almost just westernized in a way that, the poses are in English. Like, I'm not going to talk to you like with my horrible accent of Sanskrit that I can't pronounce anyway. I'm not going to pretend to know how to do it correctly. So even for me, I feel like it's more authentic than, trying to teach something, in a foreign language. So it's the same poses, but, we play rock and roll music and, it's just more relatable, I think, for people, and, it gets people excited. Like, I'd rather not do all the Sanskrit and turn one person away and invite 100 more to come into the practice.
Can you debunk some yoga myths?
I'm from a small town in Illinois, and when I first started doing yoga a lot and started talking about it, my family's like, are you going to become a Hindu? And are you going to dress like an Indian girl? Are you going to wear a thing? And are you like totally, change religion, or, does it have to do with religion? And that's absolutely, you can tether yoga to anything. Like I'm sure there's books and philosophies of basketball as your religion or something, but boiled down, yoga is not a religion. It's a science, and it's a science to create health in the body and mind. So your intuition and awareness can be out there in the world. It's not so you can pray to this deity or this deity. And a lot of, especially in the West, a lot of that is very like misconceived.
So talk us through the health benefits of yoga. How does it actually work?
I can sort of like explain like all day, like, oh, you're gonna get great skin, you're gonna lose weight, all this stuff. But like, as soon as somebody comes out of a yoga class, they're just like, oh my gosh, I feel amazing.
Yeah.
So it's the breathing and, putting your attention on your breath while you're doing the physical poses, it's better than, working out like at the gym, because you're using your attention and your focus and your breath, and then you're getting the benefits. And all the poses, originally designed as a health system from the people who figured out yoga. It was kind of before doctors and like, traditional prescription medication and all that stuff. So these guys, they did these poses by, just figuring out what worked and what didn't work. So they figured out a headstand is, really good for rejuvenating the whole body, reverses the aging process. And they figured out a shoulder stand stimulates your thyroid gland and keeps your metabolism and your whole system functioning. And a lot of the different poses stimulate, nerves, not only like muscles and, all the things that we need for like weight loss and keep the body healthy, but bringing out the toxins from the organs and all this stuff that kind of gets dumbed down in the magazine text of it now. It's like detox with yoga, but it really is, it's this very specific scientific thing that actually does work.
So if your posture's improved, then that kind of affects your whole mood?
Yeah, exactly. Well, I was on a photo shoot yesterday, and photographers, everybody has, if you're in a computer or whatever now, we're all kind of inside of our machines. But yeah, I just did a simple shoulder release with her, and she stood up, and it was like, it's kind of like you see the world like with rose-colored glasses a little bit differently. It sounds like a little bit corny, but you really just, when your body's all lined up, you feel better, So it's definitely a very empowering thing, I think, for people when they're finally standing up straight and their bodies are working and they're not, because you get grumpy when your body doesn't work right.
Exactly. Yeah, I know that. So what can somebody expect when they first start doing yoga? What kind of changes can they notice?
One of the cool things about yoga is immediately after your first class, or even if you're doing a video or a podcast, you feel great. Most people feel great instantly. So you have this like kind of aha moment of, wow, my body feels really good. And I mean, that's actually you feeling your body. So it's not like a lot of people think it's like they're buzzing or they feel like, this kind of lightness, but it's like, that's just you actually noticing that your leg is there, And then benefits start to kick in depending on how often you practice and how long your practice is. And if you're doing it once a week to relax, then that will happen. If you're doing it 3 times a week to lose weight, then that will start to happen within a couple weeks. And one of the cool thing is the spillover. So specifically for weight loss, if you're doing the yoga, you feel good afterwards. So, as opposed to doing a workout in the gym, you might not go eat a cheeseburger and a martini. You might tend toward, oh, I feel really good, so I want to go have something healthy for me. So that kind of like sinks you right into that lifestyle without you having to sit down.
So you were talking about detoxing before. Is there anything that people might experience when they first start yoga?
The main thing is just to pay attention to your breath and not your thoughts. So, when you're paying attention to your own body instead of, what's the person next to you doing, and am I good enough, am I better, like how do I compare? But it just, really puts you in your own thing. So if you start to, feel dizzy, you can just sit down or go into child's pose, or, if something's starting to hurt, then back off a little bit. Like there's no need to push it or be crazy with it. You can really take your time, and it's, because all the poses are very, they're supposed to be healing the joint. So it's something you can do your whole life. So there's no hurry to get into like the splits or a handstand today. You can do the things. It's like you can, your whole life can be, fitness and health. And it doesn't have to be something you stop your life and then you do the health. And then, and yoga is kind of nice because it, it feels good and it's people want to do it and continue doing it. So it's fun.
So what's the most important thing that people can do to ensure that yoga becomes a habit?
I think if you live in a city or you're nearby yoga studios, I suggest like going and trying a bunch until you find one that you really like. I think a lot of people, I mean, when I first moved to the city, I would go to a place and I would say, oh, I didn't really like that. And then I just wouldn't go to a class for a while and I would do it on my own, it's good to do it on your own also, but it's nice to be in a class with a bunch of people doing yoga. It just feels different. So keep going until you find some place that you like, and then make friends there so you keep coming back. And if you live far away from a yoga studio, I think DVDs are great. If you can do it right when you wake up in the morning, I think that's nice because it's before your brain starts cooking of, I gotta get to work, I gotta do all these things. But if you're absolutely not a morning person, like, and that's gonna drive you crazy, then maybe after work is the best time for you. But I think as far as setting habits go, if you could pick a time that works for you and just say, okay, I'm going to try, every day this week to do 10 minutes of yoga at this time, and I'm just going to do it. And then you'll probably keep doing it because it feels good. But yeah, I think shorter and more often is definitely more beneficial than, one thing and then you kind of forget about it.
If people can't get to Strala, how else can they follow you? How else can they get tips from you?
Well, I have a podcast on iTunes. It's free. It's called Tara Stiles Living, and there's 5 minute, 10 minutes, and like some longer videos, just routines that we do at the studio and other like tips and routines. And I have a YouTube channel with fun, like kind of video blogging tips and fun things I like to do every once in a while.
What are the common mistakes that people make?
One thing, especially, with our culture now is trying too hard. So a lot of people come in and they really like, oh, they push it, It's like, especially, well, some girls also, but like, it's more fun to make fun of guys. Like they'll do just holding a plank pose at the top of a push-up position, and they're doing it with, 100% of their power. So the cool thing about yoga is you find the way to do things with the least amount of effort. So you just find how to be in a pose, and then, you're using what you need and relaxing what you don't need. That way, you have more room for your intuition to come up. And that's when all those kind of feel good yoga, out there things, but are very real can happen. So it's finding that, like almost like using the force kind of, you can do it like that,
So what's your number one secret then to health and fitness?
Very simple, a regular practice of following your breath, whether that's, 5 minutes in the morning or 5 minutes before you go to bed at night, or 5 minutes when you're on the train or in your car, not driving, but like just somewhere. But I think it's so important because it kind of is like a gauge for where you are and what you need. And, because we all get into bad habits, whether that's, reaching for too much caffeine or, bad foods or having bad relationships or behaviors. And it's all because we are misaligned without paying attention to what's going on in your body and mind. So it's sort of like 5-minute scan of just putting your attention on your breath instead of your thoughts. And then when we start to do that, we notice that our thoughts are really crazy. It's like almost like a hamster wheel, and it's sort of like a game. Like if you can actually notice you're having a thought and bring your attention back to your breath, it's really useful.
So tell us the story then of how you first discovered yoga.
Well, I guess when I was a little kid, I grew up in the woods, and I ran around and like did weird yoga stuff like meditating in trees and all this kind of thing. But I didn't really know that it was yoga really. And I danced ballet growing up, and in my ballet program when I was in high school, we had yoga on Fridays. And I was just really drawn to it. I didn't know there was other people doing weird stuff with the universe. So I was like, okay, I guess what I'm doing isn't so weird. It can be practical and normal. And then I just started going in that direction from there.
What about when you were modeling? Did you still keep doing the yoga whilst you were doing that? Was that an important part of keeping fit then?
Yeah, definitely. It definitely kept me normal. I mean, because the modeling life, is like you're busy and things are great, and then the next day everybody hates you, and then the next day you're great again. So it can be a real roller coaster. And I actually, like, whenever I was doing fashion stuff, I would just show up to a shoot and kind of like do a crazy yoga pose. And so it sort of started to integrate into my work a little bit. And then when yoga became a little more popular, like Adidas started doing a yoga line, and I did their campaign, and Nike. So I kind of became the go-to yoga girl.
Is there anything you've learned, any secret guru tips to sticking?
I learned when I'm at home to keep a notebook beside me. If I have a thought or something, I'm like, I have to remember that, instead of putting it back in your brain, just to write it down, and then it's there, and then you can keep on with the practice.
You have a book too. What's your book called, and what's it about?
It's called Slim, Calm, Sexy, and it's fun. It was a fun project for me to do because it goes through a lot of the different ailments, and it's basically what happens when you do yoga. Like your body gets slim, your mind gets calm, and then you feel sexy. So it profiles 6 different girls that have come to my studio, and they have different things that have happened with them through yoga. One girl had improvements in her relationship with her husband, and one girl lost weight, and one girl got a lot more de-stressed and started sleeping better. She had all these sleep problems. So it's kind of neat to show like how it all just happens in each individual's life. And it was fun for me to profile, real people, say like, here's a real person, she's just like you, she's not a weirdo or something. So it goes through that. And then the book also goes through different health ailments, like, their yoga cures for like, here's a routine you can do if you have a headache. And, here's a routine that you can do, if you just broke up with your boyfriend, and, different things. So like, it's fun because a lot of different poses, can open your shoulders and you feel de-stressed from the computer. So there's kind of little tricks and tips for everything. And it's real glossy. It reads like a magazine. There's lots of pictures and tips and little things from the philosophy and things like that. So it's kind of like a fun encyclopedia of yoga.
Because nowadays people are too quick to pick up on bad habits. If you split up with your boyfriend, you might reach for the alcohol, or if you've got a headache, you might reach for some aspirin. So it sounds like a really positive thing.
My goal is to get everybody off of the prescription drugs, as much as possible, but, without being crazy about it. I mean, there's so many things you can do to stay healthy, and you don't have to go down a certain path and, say, okay, I'm this age and everything's going to start falling apart like that. You really can just be healthy your whole life. There's no reason you have to get a cold or a flu every month or every year. So
like what you were saying earlier about listening to your body, and that if you've got a headache, maybe there's a reason it's telling you something.
Yeah, maybe you're stressed out. Maybe you should find a different job or a different boyfriend. Different apartment, different city. Yeah, I think it's hard for people too. It feels selfish to take the time to breathe and be like, okay, it's just going to be me time. And but I think the trick to that is, when you're spending all your time like helping others and doing things for others, you can't actually help as good and help as much unless you take the time for yourself.
So if somebody breaks a habit, they might beat themselves up about it. So have you ever started something and then broke the habit? Have you got back on track again?
You're always going to be breathing, and your breath will forgive you. Like if you're like, okay, I didn't do that, but you can always come back and just put your attention back. It's always going to be there. So it's kind of like that constant supply of, fuel or energy. Whenever you need it, it's always going to be there. So I feel like if you can just people can be easier on themselves. There's no need to be frustrated. If you got off the bus, you can just get on the next bus. It's like, if you can think about it like, there's a bus every 10 minutes or a couple days, then, fine, you got off the bus, you had to go to the store, and maybe you went to the bar by mistake, but it's okay. Sometimes it's okay. And then you just get back on the next bus.
It's an important thing, isn't it, to start again, not to sort of say, oh, well, that's it now, there's always the next time, the next class.
Yeah, exactly. And it's just, your body's always there for you, and it like just wants you to, your body knows more than we do, like that's why we get sick and, feel good after we do something. So it's like your body's not lying to you. It's wanting you to take care of it.
Thanks so much for joining us, because I got so much from that, and I'm sure our viewers will get a lot of inspiration from this today.